Did you know that the empowerment of women in Africa only focuses on illiterate women? There's actually been a tendency when addressing issues of empowerment of women in Africa, one has always focused on illiterate women and how they can be empowered. But actually, my thesis, which I wrote in 2008 in connection with my master's degree in African Studies, actually contradicts this and says it is just as important to look at the women who have completed or about to complete their education from any given open university. Now, let me introduce you to one of the ladies whom I had interviewed in 2008 in connection with my thesis. Her name is Chiku Lweno. As we earlier spoke, this interview is actually about how your education has empowered you in the areas of self-esteem, family structure, and employment opportunities. Now, if we begin with the concept of self-esteem, do you feel that you had low self-esteem before you got your education?
So Susan, thank you very much. It's been a while. Thanks for reaching out to me again. I did graduate my degree in communication science with the University of South Africa. You asked if the degree helped me with my self-esteem. I don't know if it was exactly that I had a low self-esteem, but I just knew that an additional degree, diploma, would open more doors for me. So it would give me that boost in confidence to be able to apply to more and diverse jobs. So it really helped me. Once I graduated, I was equipped with the right skills that enabled me to really apply to many jobs. And I've been to many organizations doing a lot of things.
So, where do you work now? And what position do you have there?
Right now, I work with Children in Crossfire. It is an Irish NGO. Its headquarters are in Ireland, but we have a country office here in Dar es Salaam and a small project office in Dodoma. I work as a strategic partnerships and advocacy manager. My portfolio includes communications in general. I handle the organization's social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. I also am in charge of general communications, internal and external communications. I deal with the media in a corporate level, as well as in a direct implementation of the project. We have a component that deals with journalists who are stationed in all regions, all 26 regions in Tanzania. We have trained them and I'm mentoring them to collect information about early childhood development, because this is the business of the organization. We are in the early childhood development sector. We work with government schools in the pre-primary classrooms, as well as ECD centers. These are like preschools in the community. So my role with the journalists is to train and mentor them to collect information and write stories that can be shared in the local media, in the community radios and newspapers, as well as in the nation-facing media, big organizations like ITV, TBC, Star TV, etc. So they write stories. So far, they've written almost 1,000 stories since we last trained them. So it's big achievement, and I really am thankful that I took that degree, because it gave me the right skills and competence to deal with this kind of thing.
Congratulations, Chiku. That's a real great achievement. So, what advice would you give to women about the importance of studying at the Open University?
The advice I'd give women is that Open University, distance learning, studies is the best option for women, because then they have an opportunity to still being moms, to still being wives, to still have their jobs while they're still advancing themselves with education. It's easier for men. I know a couple of my friends who are male, they went for their masters full-time. Another one went for doctorate full-time. There is no way in our cultural setting here in Tanzania to easily just drop everything and pursue your education. the cultural setting just doesn't support women in that way. So Open University has come to really rescue a lot of us to be able to still advance ourselves and at the same time be mothers and wives and help the communities the best way we can as we are expected.
I actually remember you mentioning that you have children at the time I interviewed you in 2008. Does your education play a role in their upbringing?
I have two daughters. Right now, both of them have finished university. And I think my way of thinking and my mentality has pushed me to push them, and they're responding to that push very well. So they've both graduated, and yeah, they're already their own women at the moment, and their outlook is very positive. I know they are thinking of going for masters, they're thinking of applying for jobs, they're thinking, and it is great. At their age, I still had my diploma in journalism, but they already have their degrees, so I'm sure they can go further than I've been. And that's what I want, and I encourage them to do that.
Have you experienced any barriers from society or family due to the fact that you have a higher education?
Barriers, not as much, but as I mentioned before, culturally, we are, as women, we are really not encouraged to go very far in education. Uh, Even when I was studying, it was not easy. Being a mother is a full-time job. Being a wife is not something that you could say it's part-time either. So being a mom and a wife and having a full-time job and then studying, it was not easy. So you could see that people were looking at you in a way that you're dropping some balls. You are having too many things in your hands. You should just focus on one. And the most important ones are probably being a mother, or maybe just being a wife, or just focus on your job. So it has not been easy. So I would say to many women, maybe this is something that would discourage them to pursue further education. I'm glad I continued, I persevered. And this is mainly because of my upbringing. I was raised to believe sky is not even the limit. I can actually go beyond. The way my father raised us, he treated us fairly, girls and boys, and encouraged us all to, to go as far as we can. So for me, it was internally something was pushing me to disregard any barriers, any negativity, and to keep on forging forward until I accomplish my degree. And I encourage other women to think that way. I know how hard it is in our situation, in our context, but it is something that they can do. And I always try as much as possible to talk to girls, to talk to other women, and encourage them.
Have you been given more responsibility at work due to the fact that you have a higher education?
I would say I sought extra responsibility. So for me, I've worked in various organizations, and for me, it was mainly to challenge myself. What else can I do? What else can I do? So I've worked with local NGOs. Tanzania Media Women's Association is a local NGO. I've been a project manager there. I manage two projects, no, both of them for anti-female genital mutilation. I've worked for international NGOs. Um, I've worked for Marie Stops briefly. I'm right now working with Children in Crossfire. I've worked for international organizations. I've worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's a corporate, it's a major corporate. I've worked with the World Bank. Twice I had consultancies, twice with the World Bank. And for me, I challenged myself, and the skills that I got from the degree really helped me, because the degree had component in marketing, component into interpersonal communication, advocacy, media, development studies, etc. It was rich. It was a very rich degree. So I pushed myself to explore all avenues that are in line with that degree.
So how does all this acknowledgement from your workplace, from your family, from society as a whole affect you personally?
I would say it's encouraging. It feels good to have this kind of recognition. I would say culturally, not many women are encouraged to advance themselves in education. And this is just the way it is. It's changing, but it's still on a very lower level. The fact that women are not expected to go further in education. You know that right now, even our children in primary schools and secondary school, if they fall pregnant for whatever reason, they're not expected to go back to school. It's expected that they should just go for vocational and get some skills of some sort and just work with their hands or that kind of thing. But the education system rejects them. And that's so bad. That sends a very bad message to a lot of girls in our society. So it has been very encouraging for me to go this far. And I would like my daughters to follow my footsteps. And I encourage all women that I come in contact with to do the same.
Once again, thank you so much, Chiku, for being on board this interview. Thank you so much for spending so much of your time to share with us about your education from the Open University of South Africa and how it has empowered you. I hope in my heart of hearts that this interview will inspire women around the world and encourage them to take an education at any given Open University. And I also hope that this interview will catch the attention of researchers around the world who until now have focused on the empowerment of women by looking at illiterate women and how they can be empowered, that these researchers, after having listened to this interview, get motivated to look into the women who have completed or about to complete their education from any given Open University. Because actually this area is just as important to look into when addressing issues of empowerment of women in Africa. Once again, thank you so much for listening.